National Library Week. My name is Ann Crawford. I'm the Reference and Adult Services Librarian at the Ponte Vedra Beach Branch Library. But prior to January 2020, I was a youth services librarian for almost 17 years. I got to work with kids. I got to work with teens. I got to read some fantastic read-alouds. But today's experience is mostly going to come from my wonderful experiences, not only from my childhood, but mostly with my own child, my favorite kid in the whole wide world. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Lucy Crawford, Miss I Love Books. I'm her daughter. And Miss I'm a librarian. I love being it. But we both share one big thing in common. Both of us love to read books, and I think I personally like to read books better than her because I'm reading them like crazy.
It's a really close tie, a very close tie, and in a very short time that you've been here on planet Earth, you have read a lot, Lucy. How old are you?
I'm 8.5 years old, and I'm in the 3rd grade.
Yes, and Lucy and I share something else in common. We grew up with some wonderful school teachers who loved to read aloud to the class. In fact, that was a big reason of why I became a librarian. In fact, Lucy, would you like to talk about some of your teachers who've read aloud to you?
Yes, my kindergarten teachers, I cannot remember their names, but sadly they transferred to another school.
They're still amazing.
Along with our principal. But anyway, my 1st grade teacher, Miss Campbell, loved to read books out loud to us. My 2nd grade teacher that I really love a lot, her name's Miss Andrioni. She loved reading some chapter books to us, like the BFG. That book was so good. And my 3rd grade teacher is reading to us a lot of books, and a couple that could even be mentioned in here.
Absolutely. And what is her name?
Her name is Miss Coonley.
Yeah, so Miss Coonley's really going the extra mile here during virtual schooling. She's been reading aloud to the class and recording herself so that the class can follow along with the book that they're reading that we'll talk about a little bit later. Excuse me. But also, Miss Mary Beth, our current youth services librarian, has been doing a book before bedtime. So Monday through Friday, you can catch her at 7:30 in the evening for half an hour, and she reads a few chapters a day of a chapter book, so you can share in a family read aloud that way. In fact, she just finished the book Lucy is about to talk about. Lucy, would you like to talk about Charlotte's Web?
Charlotte's Web is one of my favorite books from my childhood. It's really good because it has all sorts of features mixed into it, like drama, happiness, advantage.
You mean adventure?
Adventure and advantage.
Advantage?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, somebody got revenge on somebody else.
Oh, revenge. But mostly it's about, what do you think it's
friendship.
Friendship.
And it's about what friends can do and how they can stand up for you. Something very bad happens to a character in the end. I don't want to spoil it, but it's very sad.
It is very sad there at the end, but I think ultimately the book ends on a happy note. I think you're left feeling uplifted. So if you can get past that sad part, it really is an amazing story. It won the Newbery Honor Award many years ago, and apparently it's been out for a long time. This particular cover that I photocopied is the 60th anniversary edition. Charlotte's Web is a wonderful story. So that segues really nicely into the book that I'm going to share, which is Bridge to Terabithia. Now, Bridge to Terabithia won the Newbery Award, and this was the book that my 5th grade teacher read aloud to us, and it was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Once again, a little sad at the end, but ultimately ends happily. And it's all about friendship and imagination and not judging someone just by how they might seem to you on the outside or by what other people think. And that's what really made Leslie and Jess's friendship so amazing. And they actually did a really good job adapting it into a movie, which is not always the case, as we know. Not always the case. But it's just an incredible story and very relatable, and I thought Catherine Patterson did a wonderful job with it. So again, it's a great chapter book to share with your family. because it's something that, even though it's been around for a long, long time, I think kids could really relate to. And both Charlotte's Web and Bridge to Terabithia are downloadable in Libby, our database that allows you to download free ebooks and free audiobooks. You just have to get either have a St. Johns County Library card, or get a free e-card on our website, SJCPLS.org. So now on to our next
switch
book.
over to my fun book.
That's right. Here we go. What do you think of Ramona Quimby, Lucy?
Ramona Quimby is a very nice girl, but also very tricky and can often get into lots of trouble. But overall, she's a very good girl. She's just like me. I have my bad moments, and sometimes I can be a lot of trouble for my parents. She knows about it. Ask her. But overall, she's a really good person, and she has adventures in here. She has a really big imagination, and she likes to imagine things, and sometimes they can often get into a little trouble.
I think Lucy finds Ramona very relatable, as a lot of kids may. This is another Newbery Honor book, and I believe the little quote here, and you tell me, Lucy, you're in third grade, if you agree. Life as a third grader is tough.
Well, I mean, some quizzes can be tough, but overall it's really good, especially the reading points. I love those.
One of the great things about Ramona is the younger sister. And sometimes in books you hear about the older sibling, and their younger sibling is just so much trouble. They're so much of a handful. And this is a book that takes the perspective of the younger sister and how it feels to be the youngest in the family when everything has already been done by your older sibling, in her case, Beatrice, nicknamed Beezus, and she's already done it all so well. And Ramona's imagination, and sometimes she just kind of gets a little bit ahead of herself.
Can I say something?
Sure, absolutely, Lucy.
Well, I just wanted to say maybe, just maybe, in the later books, Ramona may not be the only one that's going to be in the family that's the youngest.
And you can't give anything else away, Lucy, because that would be a spoiler. And as a librarian and a librarian's daughter, we know spoilers are not good. So we're not going to give any spoilers away in today's presentation. Instead, we're going to encourage you to read this series of books, because we're reading Ramona Forever, which is the book right after Ramona Quimby, age 8. And we are loving it. We read it every night before bed. And sometimes, since we're all home a little bit more than usual, and we're all looking for that mental health break, sometimes what we do is we read it during the day and just take a break from everything and just dive into a good book. And we suggest you do the same.
Yep.
So, along the same lines of Ramona,
over to Mom's exciting book.
That's right, back from my childhood, Judy Blume, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. So you've got, with Ramona, a book about how it feels to be the younger sibling. And in Judy Blume's Fudge series, it's all about how it feels to be the older sibling, which is what I am to my brother Frank, who is 3.5 years younger than me, a foot taller, but still younger. Although some people now think he's older, which I don't correct them. But at any rate, it talks all about Peter Hatcher. He's the poor young boy right here who's got his hand to his forehead because he just can't believe what Fudge has done next. Fudge is always into something. His name's actually Farley Drexel, but everyone calls him Fudge.
Probably because he gets into a lot of trouble and mischief.
He does. And there's a crazy neighbor named Sheila, and Peter is just long-suffering. Fudge is up to everything. Fudge gets trapped at the top of the playground equipment and has to be rescued by the fire department. He smears peas and mashed potatoes down the wall at a restaurant. He's basically your younger sibling nightmare, which makes him hilarious to read about.
Nightmare.
So I really encourage you to read Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, followed by Super Fudge, and then there's a few more books in the Fudge series, all of which are in Libby. And they're just really, hilarious. So if you've got a family that's got more than one child in it, or even if you've just got an only child, definitely a book worth reading.
Over to my really, really exciting, fun, long chapter book.
There we go. This is a good one to dive into.
Miss Andrioni read this to us. There are 4 books so far in this series, and there might just be a 5th. But when I read Rump, I thought it was going to be a boring story, but boy was I wrong. It has a mixture of fairy tales mixed up, where actual humans can save the fairies.
Ooh, I
And
like that.
it's really fun. And it mentions a lot of characters. Can I name the other books?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, I know the next book is Red, and then the next one is Jack. Then the next one is Grump.
So if these are all fractured fairy tales, meaning they're like your usual fairy tales, but the stories have been twisted around, mixed up a little bit, Rump is about Rumpelstiltskin. Who is Red about?
Red is about Little Red Riding Hood.
Good. And who is Jack about?
Jack from the Beanstalk story.
Okay. And what about Grump? Who is Grump?
Grump is a mean troll.
Mean troll. The troll under the bridge, I wonder?
Yep.
Okay, so if you're a big fan of fairy tales and you like your fairy tales with a bit of a twist, then this is the series for you. Now, Lucy, you're more familiar with this series than me, believe it or not. Would you say that you need to read these books in order?
Well, actually, I do think, because, like, when you read Rump, it leaves you at a cliffhanger. So if you read Red first, then you'll automatically get the answers to Rump. And then if you read Grump, then you'll get the answers to Jack.
So you would spoil yourself.
Yes.
Now, what is a cliffhanger for our viewers who might not know what that is?
A cliffhanger is like when I go like, here, let me make an example. Okay, so I go like, so I got stung by a bee. They had to take me to the emergency room because it was a really bad sting. And then it says to be continued.
So we don't know
It
what the
leaves you
outcome
hanging.
is. It leaves you hanging. You're just not sure where the story's going to go. So this one's really important to read in order. Make sure you start with Rump first and read the books in order. If you're not sure what the order of the books is, a great librarian pro tip I have for you is a website called fantasticfiction.com. And you can Google it, Fantastic Fiction. And what you can do is you can type in an author's name or even a title, and it will pull up that author and everything they've ever written and the order of all of their series.
Yep.
And this is true for children's books, teen books, and adult books. So if you're in the middle of a really great adult series, for example, and you really want to know what the next book is, I recommend that website as well, because you can type in the author's name, see every series they've written, and what the order of each series is. So, along the lines of Rump, of course, I have to go with the somewhat modern day classic. I would say it's pretty modern day. Harry Potter. Harry Potter. What a great time while we're all at home a bit more with our family than to dive into this wonderful 8-book series now that used to be 7 books. And one of the things that I love about Harry Potter is it just has captured the imagination of children, teens, and adults. You can share it with the entire family. I will say that starting in about book 4, towards the end of book 4 and then on, the books do get a bit darker in nature. So do consider whether or not you have any really sensitive kids at home or younger kids at home, or maybe just decide you're just going to read maybe just the first 2 books, for example. But it really is an incredible series. It makes for a fantastic read aloud. They've also obviously been very successful with the movies that tie in with Harry Potter. And it really is one of the big leaping off points of getting kids back into reading, back into chapter books, back about being excited about the next book coming out in whichever series that they love.
Can I say something?
Sure, Lucy.
Okay, I have a lot to say about this book. I have not read the book, but I have seen a lot of the movies, and they are so good. So let me recommend you, if you're a parent, if you have any sensitive kids at home, like I was to Harry Potter at first, then you might want to like read the book or watch the movie without your kid around, so you know what will happen, so you know it's safe for your child to read.
Now, for those of you who are out there, and hopefully you're agreeing with Lucy because she's absolutely right, the only way a parent can really decide if something is appropriate for their child is to either read it or watch it for themselves, because appropriate is such a vague word. It can, for example, Lucy is 8. Every 8-year-old is so different, and every family is so different. But something I want to mention about Harry Potter with respect to Lucy watching the movies first before I get dinged as a librarian. The Jacksonville Symphony has done a wonderful job of pairing the movie with the symphony, and that's the reason that Lucy has seen some of the movies before having read the books. But that said, I'm really looking forward to diving into Harry Potter at home with Lucy while we have a little bit more time together to dive into this great read. And the fact that she is such a good reader herself now, I look forward to her reading aloud to me as well. So on to our next book for Lucy.
My funnest book yet.
Okay.
The Land of Stories is such an exciting book. It also has a lot of fairy tales, and it has a brother and a sister, both red hairs. The girl is a lot smarter at school, and the boy is not as smart and can sometimes fall asleep in class. But one day, their grandmother gives Alex, the girl, a book, and turns out the book is magic and it sucks her in. Connor gets sucked in too, and they fall from the sky into the Land of Stories, and they have to solve and make things right in the Land of Stories before they're able to get out. So if they don't, then they'll never get out.
They'll be trapped in the book forever.
But it is also a cliffhanger. So my class is in the middle of reading The Enchantress Returns. And I am so glad, crisis averted, that it gave me all the answers. Yes.
So this is definitely a series where you want to read all the books in order, right, Lucy?
But there's also a wolf pack in it, a scary wolf pack, and blood in it. So be careful.
Yes, be mindful of who you're reading aloud to, but do know that Lucy's 3rd grade class is reading this series with Miss Coonley, and they absolutely love it, and they voted to read the 2nd book. Now, I do want to say a few things about this book. I love the fact that the kids are literally falling into the story. Oftentimes when you read books, it feels like you're falling into the story, and that's one of the things that makes books such a great escape, and why it's such a great read aloud for the family, and just a mental health break.
Let me mention one more thing.
Now wait a minute.
Okay.
Let me finish. Now, like I said, they literally fall into the book. They have to make things right before they can escape. And I wanted to mention that the author is Chris Colfer. If any of you are Glee fans, you might remember him from that. And he's become an incredibly successful writer with this series. And there are several books in the series. I believe there may be 6 or 7 books in the series. And this is a series also that we own in Libby, and we hope you'll consider downloading. It's a very exciting story, again, if you're a big fan of fairy tales and fractured fairy tales like Lucy is. Now, Lucy, is there something you'd like to share about this story?
I also want to say that when they're falling out from the sky, Alex lands first, and she's just like, hey, where am I? She's looking around. But thank goodness she scooched out of the way, because then Connor fell down from the sky. He was closing his eyes, going like, I'm gonna die! And like he was like, what's going on? But he was closing his eyes, and he was like, I'm gonna die. But then when like he hits the ground, he doesn't know it. So if you've ever seen the Lego movie, like the fun guy, like he goes, like he's falling off a cliff, and he goes like, ah! And then he hits the ground, and he's still like, ah! But that's what Connor did. He was like, ah! After he already hit the ground. She had to slap him.
So it sounds like to me that boys and girls both really enjoyed this book in Lucy's class, which is why they voted on the 2nd book. So definitely remember The Land of Stories by Chris Colfer. Big series, loads of fun to dive into, or fall into, depending on how you look at it. All right, so on to a book that was hilarious for me as a kid.
Our last book.
No, not our last book. Nor is it our last. Well, hold on.
Yeah.
It is our last book. Lucy was right. Okay, so this is Skinny Bones. Now, some of you are familiar with Barbara Park because you're familiar with the Judy B. Jones series. and that's Barbara Park lately. This is Barbara Park back when I was a kid, which, you know, according to Lucy and her ilk, maybe when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Who knows? Who knows? But Skinny Bones was fantastic because Alex Frankovich, the main character, is in 5th grade. He's got a big mouth that gets him in a lot of trouble. And where he and I really connected is the fact that he absolutely despises sports. Now, before you get into that too much, I love to watch sports. I love to cheer on sports. Go Florida Gators, go. As far as playing sports, competitive sports, not my forte.
I'd like to join the cheer squad.
Now, Lucy is a phenomenal soccer player, as is her dad, but I was much more of a musician growing up. So I loved Skinny Bones because he was not afraid to admit that he was not an athlete. But unfortunately, he is on his little league team, and it's more or less a disaster. And he's okay with that because he makes up for it by being kind of the class clown in his class until TJ Stoner comes along. And TJ is a phenomenal little league player. And he loves to tell people how good he is. And that just drives Alex absolutely crazy, which of course leads Alex to make up all sorts of wild stories about how good he is when, of course, we know he's not. And so you think, well, is he going to get away with it? Is his big mouth not going to get him in trouble this time? Well, unfortunately, TJ decides to challenge Alex's team to a big game.
But Mom, don't give too much away.
Oh, I don't plan to. I plan on leaving on a cliffhanger here. He challenges him to a big game. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, with everyone in the community gathering to come see Alex humiliate himself, it turns out the local news station wants to cover it too. And how is Alex going to get out of this one? You're going to have to read the book to find out. And if you're not laughing after the first few pages, I don't know how you couldn't do it. It's just that zany and crazy. So there's Skinny Bones, and it's followed up by Almost Starring Skinny Bones, which was equally hilarious. And both of those books are found in Libby, our downloadable database with ebooks and e-audiobooks that you can borrow with your library card or your e-card. So like I said, today Lucy and I had a blast sharing with you some of our favorite read-alouds. We hope you'll share your favorite read-alouds in the comments and share with us any other kinds of, all right, have a seat, any other kinds of presentations that you might like to see us present. And we hope that right after this presentation, you're just going to get out your library card or get your e-card and start downloading and sharing with your family. And most of all, we want to wish you a very happy National Library Week.
But also, I want to state one thing.
Okay.
Tomorrow is Easter, so also happy early Easter, everyone.
It is, but unfortunately our little presentation isn't going to air until after Easter. So we'll just say, we hope you had a great Easter or a great time with your family at home. Maybe reading some of these books. So have a great day, be well, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Did it turn off?